So yes, my name is Allison, and I'm so thrilled to be here tonight and just share a little bit about myself and my journey with the Lord in the past several years. When Corey, May, and I were chatting a few weeks ago, she suggested, she mentioned to me that the theme of new beginnings was on her heart. And I just mentioned this to her, but I burst out laughing when I read her email because that feels like the only way to describe my life the last year. And so I knew that the Lord was calling me to share about this, specifically this last year with Him and this journey that's entirely changed my life and how He has truly made a new beginning in my life. And so I want to start off with a reading that again has kind of been like very central to my prayer life for the last little while. And I'll bring it up again later, but I just wanted to start off for you to think about. So this is from Isaiah 43, verses 18 to 19. Remember not the events of the past, the things of long ago, consider not. See, I am doing something new. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? In the wilderness, I make a way. In the wasteland, rivers. So, before I dive in for the last year, I thought I would just start off by giving you a bit more of a background about myself. So I was a cradle Catholic, meaning I was born into a Catholic family. I was baptized, received all my sacraments. I went to Catholic school. My family went to church on Sundays on the occasional Sunday, but usually just Christmas and Easter. And that was the extent of my faith. I truly thought I was a practicing Catholic because that's all I knew. I knew who the Lord was on paper. I knew who Jesus was and Mary and the saints, and that's all I thought there was to the Catholic faith. And so that was kind of my entire childhood until my grade 12 year, my last year of high school, things started to change. So I was invited to go on a Catholic youth retreat, and that weekend truly changed my life. I wouldn't say I had this major conversion moment that you hear these amazing stories of a light shone and I heard the Lord's voice and nothing happened really. I just was captivated by the joy and the peace of these kids around me. These kids that were my age, and somehow I felt like they just had their life figured out. They had this joy because they were following the Lord, and I wanted that. I didn't know how, but I knew I wanted it. So that kind of just began the journey of diving into my faith. So for the next 10 years after that, I did all the things. I dove right in. I started going to more retreats and events like this and reading all the books and I craved to know the Lord and to find this peace and this joy. And so I just kept kind of going on this journey and growing in my faith, truly. I really did fall in love with the Catholic Church. And again, I kept craving this relationship with the Lord. But there was something missing. There was always kind of this barrier. And that honestly was a relationship with Him. And that barrier was mostly because I was just stubborn. I would not let go of my own ways, my desires. I couldn't let go of control. I couldn't just let Him take over. And so I was holding on to what the world was telling me I was supposed to want, and what I had bought into. So for the next several years, as much as I was kind of practicing my faith, going to church, going to events, and learning more about who the Lord was, I wasn't actually giving Him time and space in my life. I was working obscene hours and super focused on my career and how could I move up in my career. I still was trying not to rock the boat with people in my life, so still going out to bars with friends and putting myself in situations that I knew weren't good for my soul, holding on to friendships that I knew weren't good for me. I'm just kind of trying to be a practicing Catholic, but not too practicing, still being in this world. And so, yeah, that honestly went on for about 10 years. And so, that brought me to almost a year ago, a little bit more than a year ago, and I reached this spot and realized I had attained all the things that I had been working tirelessly for. I had this amazing job, and I was so proud of myself, but I had attained it. I had a car, I had bought my dream home, and I kind of had checked all these boxes. That was my only focus for the last 10 years. And I realized that I was still in the exact same state. I wasn't any happier than I was supposed to. I was promised this great joy when I reached all of these milestones. And nothing changed. And in fact, I still just felt this hole, this emptiness, and I couldn't reconcile it. And honestly, I kind of reached a point of frustration with the Lord. In my mind, I felt like I had given everything to Him. And I felt like I had been serving Him and practicing my faith for all these years, and I was praying for change. I was praying for healing in my own heart. I had continued to struggle with the same habitual sins over and over, and I wasn't seeing that healing happening. And I had been praying for loved ones around me, and I wasn't seeing that changing. And so I was just kind of like, Lord, what do you want from me then? What more is there? And so this brought me to last year, to 2024, and I realized that something had to change. Clearly, it was me. Or something, I had to give up something. Or that was the conclusion I had come to at that moment. And so I didn't really know what to do. But a friend of mine had mentioned to me a few months prior that the Lord had kind of worked these miracles in her life through fasting. And I had no idea what that meant. All I knew about fasting at that point was I gave up something for Lent, and I would fast on Ash Wednesday and Good Friday, because that's what I was told to do. But I didn't know anything else beyond that. So, like the good student I've always been, I started researching. And I looked up Catholic fasting and what it meant and what that looked like aside from just food fasting. And I came across this 90-day fast for women, for Catholic women. So it was a program for 3 months that was basically just intended to quiet the world, quiet the noise of the world around, and to enter into silence with the Lord and give Him space to work. And so, providentially, I started that fast exactly 1 year today. So on February 13th, 2024, I started this fast. And so just to give you a little idea of what that looked like for me, this is a little bit, some of the things that for those 3 months. There was no TV or videos or social media. I had a daily prayer time of at least 30 minutes. And I also went to daily mass. I went to weekly adoration and monthly confession. The ladies in the room will understand this was difficult. I could not wear makeup for 3 months, which was surprisingly really hard to do. And no, I couldn't have any sweets or alcohol. There's the food aspect there. And then one of the harder ones too, especially in today's day and age, I couldn't make any purchases outside of food and toiletries. So only bare minimum for 3 months, was nothing else. So I thought this was going to be so difficult. But I was ready, I was determined. And it ended up being the most life-giving 3 months of my life, and which could honestly just continued much past those 3 months. So in tuning out the world, and actually letting go of all these things of the world I had been clinging on to, and focusing my entire day and schedule around the Lord and the sacraments, something happened that I truly never thought possible. For the first time in my life, in this 10 plus years of practicing my faith, I could finally hear the Lord's voice loud and clear in my life. I could hear him in my prayer time. I could hear him speaking to me through scripture. And I could see him moving in every little thing in my day, like the little minute details to the big things. And for the first time in my life, it was a relationship with him. It was a back and forth. You know, I had been praying to him for all these years, but he was never listening. Or I was never taking the time to hear his voice and hear his word for me. And for the first time, I was. And it was this back and forth. And honestly, it was overwhelming. It was like I had turned on a faucet, and all of a sudden, the Lord was just like telling me everything, and I was taking in all this information, and my life was changing without me even working at it. And I would sit and look around, and I was overwhelmed by his goodness. Just truly overwhelmed. And so, a few things I should tangibly share from that year, or this past year. When I started this program, we were asked to answer the following question and write down our answer, which was, why are you entering into this time of intentional prayer and sacrifice? So basically, what were my intentions for this fast? And so I wrote down these 4 things. 1, to detach from deep-rooted habitual sins. 4, discernment for my vocation. For discernment in how I was to serve in ministry. And to learn to recognize and listen to the Lord's voice. So I've obviously clearly shown that we already delivered in one of those, that's for sure. Within weeks of being into this program, like I said, faucet was turned on and I could hear his voice in everything. But he delivered in all 4, and what was remarkable is how quickly that happened, even for some of them within that period, and then within this past year. So, he completely healed me from the habitual sins that I had been struggling with for those years. He took me on a wild vocation discernment journey this past year. That went from being terrified of any kind of commitment to any vocation at the start of that fast to seriously discerning religious life for 7 months to him showing me that he was calling me to marriage. So it was, that's an entirely other topic, but he did quite a lot in the last year. And finally, I was praying for discernment in ministry, and he quite literally handed me the answers to my prayers, put a ministry in my lap that I had been praying for years, and has given me all the tools and resources to see it through this far. So, I share that because I share this to show and to say, truly when we take a step towards the Lord, he can make us entirely new. He can make these new beginnings. If we give him this space to work, he will always deliver. I'm going to check my time here and see. I'm a little tight. So I might skip this one thing. But I did want to read Isaiah one more time. And I'm going to add one more verse here from Isaiah 43. So verses 1 to 2. Thus says the Lord, do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine. When you pass through waters, I will be with you. Through rivers, you shall not be swept away. When you walk through fire, you shall not be burned, nor will flames consume you. And again, I'm going to read 18 to 19. Remember not the events of the past, the things of long ago, consider not. See, I am doing something new. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? In the wilderness I make a way, in the wasteland rivers. Like I said, this has been really pivotal to my prayer the last several months, and I would encourage any of you to go over that again if you're struggling with going through hard times and not sure where the Lord is in that, He's truly right there with you. And if we would only reach out and give Him the opportunity to be there with us and to make us new, He will always take that opportunity. One final thing I wanted to share is just that as fantastic as these new beginnings can be, and the joy and peace that the Lord truly will bring to your life, and does bring to our lives, it's not always easy to kind of be made new, because the new means the death of the old, and we get really comfortable in the old. That can be big things and little things. It could be little things like, some of the things I held on to for years were like watching trashy TV shows, or these guilty pleasures that people will say, and these are little things that are honestly hard to let go of when you're so used to it and they're part of your life. But if you kind of make that effort, the Lord will show you the true joy and peace through that. But again, it can also mean more difficult things. It could be letting go of relationships or friendships that are not serving you, or even it could mean receiving ridicule or disapproval from friends and family who don't agree with your faith and don't agree with the changes that you'll make in your life. And so with that, I would just say, it's hard to imagine, and I can say this from personal experience, it's hard to let go of those things or accept those things and imagine a greater joy and peace on the other side. But I can say with utmost confidence that the joy and peace that comes from the Lord will be far greater and far exceed any of the fears and anxieties you might have about letting go of all the other temporary joys. And so with that, I just wanted to challenge you. We have this amazing time for the next half hour or so just to adore the Lord and spend time with Him face to face. And I just challenge you to ask Him bluntly, what is holding me back from being one step closer to you? What do I have to let go of? Or how can I make that step towards you and truly be made new? Thank you so much for letting me share. God bless you all.